Welcome to ClubhouseNews.com. You're tuned into Clubhouse News Weekend for the week ending Saturday, August 16th. I'm Gabriella.
And I'm Angelo. Robin Williams, one of the most well-known comedic actors in the world, passed away at the age of 63 on Monday. Fans and celebrities around the globe were stunned to hear the news, mourning the loss of an actor with incredible range. Williams started off as a stand-up comic who was a master of improvisation. In the 70s, he became hugely popular as the extraterrestrial named Mork in the comedy television show Mork and Mindy. By the 80s, he started landing mega movie roles like a radio announcer character in the war comedy Good Morning Vietnam. In the 90s, Williams became a family favorite with roles like Peter Pan in Hook, the genie in Aladdin, and a man pretending to be a female nanny in Mrs. Doubtfire. He finally won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting in 1997. Where he played a therapist helping a troubled yet brilliant youth. Williams continued his career into the 2000s with films like 1 Hour Photo, Insomnia, Night at the Museum, and Happy Feet. Williams was also very involved in charity organizations, raising money for humanitarian causes like the Red Cross, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and Comic Relief, as well as performing stand-up comedy for American troops stationed abroad. Robin Williams, you will truly be missed.
Professional athletes can earn big bucks because they help their teams make huge profits. However, college athletes can only get school-related costs covered, like tuition and living expenses, because the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, that regulates college sports programs doesn't allow them to share in the billions of dollars made from their efforts. Now, a federal judge made a historic ruling forcing the NCAA to let colleagues pay athletes for using their names and images in video games and TV broadcasts. The NCAA's rules against students receiving profits are based on promoting amateurism and competitive balance to help students focus on academics rather than becoming distracted by money-making deals. However, former UCLA basketball player Ed O'Banion filed a lawsuit against the NCAA claiming that the organization was violating American antitrust laws, and a federal judge agreed with him. Despite the historic ruling, don't expect to see millionaire college athletes anytime soon. The NCAA is still allowed to prevent students from selling their names and images on an individual basis and can stop them from getting endorsement deals from advertisers. Basically, the ruling allows football players in the top 10 conferences and all Division I men's basketball players to have money set aside for them in a trust fund that they can access after graduation.
Earlier this year, the West African nation of Guinea experienced a wild outbreak of Ebola, a fatal virus that kills up to 90% of people who contract it. The virus has continued to spread to surrounding countries like Sierra Leone and Liberia, infecting more than 1,900 people and claiming over 1,000 lives. According to the World Health Organization, drastic action is needed to contain the disease before more lives are lost. Since there is no cure for this illness, medical experts usually have to isolate the infected people and contain the virus from the rest of the population for protection. In West Africa, it is humiliating for a person to be ill, so families hide their sick members and try to treat them at home. The problem with this is keeping the sick in the home promotes further spread of the disease. The medical volunteer group called Doctors Without Borders says the outbreak is totally out of control. In fact, it will only be considered fully contained if 42 days pass without a new case. Little by little, the virus has begun reaching other countries, like Africa's most populated country, Nigeria. So while most of the cases are in West Africa, health organizations around the world are coming together to make sure it doesn't become a global problem.
Iraq is in the midst of a fierce civil war between two Islamic groups called the Shias and the Sunnis. Ever since their religion's founder, the Prophet Muhammad, died in 632 AD, the Shias and the Sunnis disagreed on who should lead Islam, leading to centuries of conflict that is now splitting apart Iraq. The USA's Secretary of State, John Kerry, the nation's highest diplomat, has tried to negotiate a peaceful settlement between the two groups, even working with longtime rival nation Iran to control the chaos. However, Iran blames the USA for indirectly creating a political situation in Iraq where the Sunnis felt left out, and Kerry agrees that the country's leader, Nouri al-Maliki, needs to take extreme measures to be more inclusive of them. A third independent group, known as the Kurds, are fighting the Sunnis in northern Iraq, receiving the support of the USA and Iran for their efforts.